many people think that logistics is an infrastructure business, but actually it's the opposite. It's a people business. Yeah, and you have to invest in your people because that's your true product. Yeah, just as you mentioned, those are the people that are driving the service to our customers. Yeah.
So, welcome to the Indo-European Bridge. Today I'm joined by Marco Munoz, Managing Director of Rhenus Logistics Indonesia. And yeah, feel free, first of all, Marco, to add something to the introduction. And yeah, it's a pleasure to having you here on the Indo-European Bridge.
Thanks a lot, Timo, for having me. Yeah, really enthusiastic about today. Yeah, and getting to share about Rhenus and share about myself. As you mentioned, my name is Marco Antonio Munoz. I'm the managing director for Rhenus Logistics in Indonesia. I've been living and working in the country now for 16 years. So I've seen the country develop in many different ways across the last decade and a half. So very excited to share about our perspective, what Rhenus does here in Indonesia, and also maybe a little bit of some of the unique challenges that we face as well.
Perfect, perfect. So Marco, as a managing director, right, leading the European logistics or for leading European logistics provider here, what are the core operational principles from Europe that have proven most effective in the Indonesian archipelago?
Yeah, that's a very, very good question. I would say, in my opinion, what Rhenus has done here in order to bring some of the principles from Europe over to Indonesia would be reliability, yeah, transparency, and process-driven operations. Yeah. However, one of the things that we have to keep in mind that success is not simply about taking a European model and bringing it over to Indonesia and expecting it to work. Right? You still need to localize it. Yeah. Local expertise is very important to build trust. Yeah? However, that brings this unique challenge because Indonesia is geographically complex. Yeah? It is culturally diverse. So all of these challenges have to work in favor for you, right? And the only way that it will work in favor for you is by blending European standards with local needs, right? And adaptability.
I would say this is really a great foundation to build on. So moving maybe from the high level principles to the actual services you provide. So there is maybe the topic of contract logistics as well, Marco. And this is something that is clearly evolving, right? So how is Reno seeing this shift specifically among your Indonesian client? But of course, I believe for the audience would be also interesting what other services Reno's Logistics in Indonesia can offer.
All right, that's a good question. I'll start off by talking about what we offer so far. In Indonesia, we offer basically end-to-end solutions for our customers, where it comes to, international freight forwarding, it comes to domestic transportation across the archipelago, customs clearance, project logistics, drayage, trucking, and distribution, as well as warehousing. We offer all of these products to our customers in Indonesia. The main reason for that is because of the shift in the demand and requirements by our customers today. Yeah. When I first came to Indonesia, most of our customers just asked us, what is your trucking rate? Yeah. Now the question has evolved into something more positive. How can you help optimize our supply chain? Yeah. And I think that is a very positive change and shift in the conversation with our customers today. And that leads into contract logistics for Rhenus. As opposed to typically just doing port-to-port transportation, customs clearance. Our customers are asking us to be more involved in the actual flow of their goods, right? Of their of the raw materials, for example. Okay, and that indeed requires them to have transparency, yeah, from the manufacturing site down to the end user, right? Down to actually the market in Indonesia, yeah. And you have to have solutions for this in terms of digital platforms, yeah. You have to have solutions in terms of multi-point systems, yeah, warehousing nodes, yeah, that we have across Indonesia. And that is what brings value to our customers. And that value is then translated into a viable product, yeah, to the market in Indonesia.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's something that we have seen a shift across our customers in Indonesia now.
Okay. And here a follow-up question itself. So let's say I'm a company from Europe, and I would like to bring my products into Indonesia. So the topic of product registration and so on, this might be also a topic. So question may be here, how can Rhenus also support, or how can this be handled as well, apart from custom clearance and so on?
Very good. So a lot of it is down to compliance, yeah? And understanding the local regulations. And that's great that we have here in Indonesia a dedicated customs clearance department that not just operates in terms of the import and export declarations, but we actually offer consultation services, right? Depending on the ministry involved for the approval of an import license, we're able to bridge that gap between our customers' requirements, yeah, and products that they need to import into Indonesia, and tell them, okay, this is what you need to get in order to get an import license. You need to get the verification from a different ministry, for example, the Ministry of Health, right? You need to get the SNI, right, for safety standards for your product. So we bridge that gap for our customers in order for them to then actually be able to import cargo, right? And that is very regulatory. And that's something that we bring value to our customers on, right?
Okay.
Because they're not up to date with regulations, and they rely on us to share that with them.
Yeah. And this is exactly why you previously were mentioning then about Rhenus Logistics is offering end-to-end solutions for the clients. Also a question here. So is actually, or is Rhenus Logistics Indonesia, is there a focus on specific industries? Yeah. When it comes to to the services you're offering?
Absolutely, right? Like many other freight forwarders or transportation companies, we have our strengths, right? At Rhenus, automotive for sure is a pillar for our organization. So most of our customers are in the automotive sector. Then we have the industrial sector, yeah, for spare parts, machineries, capital investments here in Indonesia. So those are the ones that we really focus on. We've been expanding now more into other verticals such as food and beverage. So we're halal certified as well. And that brings another level of trust for our customers, yeah, that they know that their food and beverage products are not being contaminated with non-halal products. We recently also got GDP certified, which is controlled by the World Health Organization, that allows also to build trust that we can handle pharmaceutical products. Yeah.
Okay, great. So thanks a lot, Marco, for sharing these very valuable insights. Speaking of serving these clients, yeah, so Rhenus is known for absolute precision. How do you balance those global quality standards with the unique geographic and operational realities of Indonesia?
Yeah. As I mentioned earlier, the local approach is very important. Yeah. We are process driven like many European companies, but that's not for the sake of bureaucracy alone, right? Our customers expect that whether a shipment is being handled in Jakarta, Surabaya, Rotterdam, or Hamburg, that they receive a standardized level of service. Yeah? In this regard, for Indonesia, you have to have a realistic and practical approach, right? A formula in Europe will not work, as I mentioned, here in Indonesia. You have to localize it. There's one good example that I have. with a customer trying to focus their volumes with one specific shipping line, yeah, because it worked very well in Europe, yeah. But when we talk about in Indonesia, let's say their container equipment is not suitable because most of their cargo is being loaded, or most of their containers are being loaded with, let's say, waste products, yeah, whereas the customer's product cannot be loaded in such a container that has been contaminated, yeah. So we were able to bridge that gap in Indonesia and have the containers repaired, have a pool of containers there ready for them to use that are up to their standard in order for their product not to be compromised. And again, if it's as simple as taking a approach that is built and successful in Europe and putting it in Indonesia, one-to-one, it won't work. Yeah? And that's not what will build trust in Indonesia. And I think that's what we found to be very key to our success so far, building that trust with the local expertise.
Okay, so what I'm hearing now from what you have shared, it is all about you have to be on the ground, yeah,
Absolutely.
right? You need to have this so-called proximity to serve your customers and to succeed here in the market.
100%.
Yeah. It is really fascinating, yeah, how you manage that physical complexity. So to keep that precision at scale, we also have to look at the tools you're using. So how is the digital integration helping Rhenus simplify warehousing and the so-called notorious last mile challenges here?
Yeah. So technology is extremely important. One of the big investments that we've made is into track and trace, where our customers are able to live see where their cargo is located when it comes to the physical transportation of the goods. When it comes to warehousing, inventory management, we have our TMS system that we've invested in order for customers to really see, okay, how much do they have in SKUs? Yeah, where is it located within the warehouse? Live CCTV footage, right? Recordings, and all backed up by our compliance processes, our trainings to our employees. All of this is what helps us with the complexities here, especially in the last mile. Trucks equipped with GPS tracking, yeah, where you can just log in and you can see where the truck is located, how far away they are from your factory or from your distribution center, or from even the storefront where the cargo needs to be delivered. And that's all important because you have different demand cycles, yeah, in different industries. So having that visibility allows our customers to be more adaptable to shifts in demand. And that's actually what will drive costs down.
Maybe as a short summary, yeah. So it is really this having this digital integration or these tools available for customers is definitely in these days essential.
Absolutely.
And their end-to-end tracking is available. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
One last thing to make note of is that it's also important to have the connectivity with subcontractors, right? So we can do our best to ensure that data is available, but in order to get it live, every single subcontractor has to speak the same language in terms of the systems. So at Rhenus, what we have is live data transfer from shipping lines over to our platform. Yeah? So customers can see what they normally would see in the shipping line, but now they can see it on an end-to-end basis, from where it's in the factory, on the road, on the water or in the air, down to destination.
Yeah. Excellent. Excellent. Okay, so as we have already addressed or highlighted the digital tools Rhenus is using in general, digital tools, it's good and definitely needed, but there are always people behind, when we talk about operating them. So how do you actually ensure then the transfer of the European operational standards to your local Indonesian workforce?
Many people think that logistics is an infrastructure business, but actually it's the opposite. It's a people business. Yeah. And you have to invest in your people because that's your true product. Yeah. Just as you mentioned, those are the people that are driving the service to our customers. Yeah. And you need to have a culture built around, hiring the best, training the best. You have to have good leadership. You have to have a culture of empowerment in the organization in order to drive people to contribute, right, and to perform at an excellent level. Training is very important at Rhenus. I personally believe that hiring new talent and developing the future of the organization is key, and it's actually the main driver of business growth. Yeah, it's not just about the volumes. It's not just about the number of accounts that you bring in. Developing people in order to ensure that the continuity of the business is secure is of the utmost importance for Rhenus. And I think that the future of our business relies on this, as it would in any other business. Yeah. So it's very important.
Okay. You were mentioning also the so-called leadership, the importance, the training, itself. So, but maybe could you provide more details on that? What does it mean for you? In terms of leadership, the importance, maybe, also based on your cultural background, right? So there might be also some differences as well.
True. There could be some differences here. When it comes to training, we make sure that our employees are properly trained in terms of compliance, right? In terms of operational processes, so that they know how they're being measured. Yeah. Specific KPIs in order to provide transparency to our employees on how they're doing. And then also in terms of character building. Yeah. So training outside of, let's say, doing business, but also how to solve problems is important. Sometimes we fall into the trap of trying to solve the day-to-day business issues instead of the root cause. Yeah. And that training that we provide to our employees to empower them, to solve problems more than just the superficial, is what's going to improve our workforce.
Okay.
In my opinion. Yeah. So I think that's what we take great pride in at Rhenus. We have several leadership trainings for our managers. Yeah. We have the standardized trainings on an international level for ISO, for health and safety and environmental. We have trainings for warehouse operations, and we also have trainings for character building for our employees, right? And that is what builds a culture of empowerment.
And also a follow-up question on that one. So leadership here, does it mean Indonesia? So it is like from 9 to 5, and this is actually where your leadership ends, or there are also some responsibilities outside of the office?
100%, right? Especially in our industry, Timo, right? As a shipment is departing Indonesia, it doesn't mean that your job is done, right? Something is then arriving at destination across the world at a different time zone, and a customer is asking for a sudden change, or there's a hiccup in the transportation and they need an update urgently. So indeed, most of the time, we have to work more than just 9 to 5, right? Maybe not as it is in China, for example, right? Where they call it the 669, right? Rule, or 669 principle, I believe is what they call it. But we frequently find ourselves going extra mile for the customer because they demand it. And that's what brings in the value for Rhenus to our customers, that we're there for them. We're not just selling a product, but we're part of their business itself. Yeah, I think it's more akin of us being an employee for our customers, but with the Rhenus brand. Yeah, and that requires us to be on call, to be honest. Yeah.
Okay, great. If we zoom out to the broader market and the companies, what is your primary advice for other European companies looking to optimize the supply chain entry into Indonesia?
Okay, so you have to be realistic and you have to be practical, in terms of the challenges here in Indonesia. I would say don't try and have different expectations in terms of what your standard operating procedures are in Europe or in the United States, where I'm specifically from. Yeah, they have to be tailor-made for the Indonesian dynamic market and geographical complexity. Yeah? Even within Indonesia itself, things are not standard. What works in Jakarta will not work in Kalimantan, will not work in North Sumatra, because you have such diverse tastes, you have such diverse cultures, you have multiple different languages, right? The market in Jakarta is vastly different than the market in Surabaya, right? So again, even within the archipelago, you have to localize. Yeah? So that brings complexity, obviously. Yeah? Choosing the right partners is extremely important, yeah? Especially when it comes to logistics. That ends up being the backbone of any product in Indonesia.
Yeah, that is a powerful perspective on the industry itself. So also maybe here before we wrap up, I would like to look toward the horizon, fast forward 5 years. How do you see the logistic landscape evolving to better serve the Indo-European trade corridor?
Well, there are still a lot of things to be done within Indonesia, yeah, in terms of regulations, in terms of ease of business. Things, of course, have gone in a very positive direction, I would say, in the last 2 decades. From my perspective, being here for 16 years, I've seen things change for the better. In terms of logistics, it still needs to be improved when we talk about local infrastructure, right? The cost to serve our customers remains high simply because of the infrastructure in Indonesia. Multimodal transport solutions are very much needed here, yeah? With a mix of road, air, and ocean transportation, and that actually ends up being the case to bring down costs. Yeah, but I do see with the investment from the government in local domestic projects, especially within infrastructure, that things will improve. Yeah? The domestic water transportation should also be improving within Indonesia as regulations welcome new entrants into the market, right? Typically, domestic vessels have to be domestically operated within Indonesia. And we hope to see in the future that cabotage laws change where they will allow international players more freedom within Indonesia.
Okay. So that means based on the positive development improvements here in Indonesia in terms of infrastructure, but as well as on from the government, the investments and everything, and also the positive outlook. So for Rhenus Logistics in Indonesia, it is definitely a key market to further, develop.
Absolutely.
Okay. Then also, finally, as a leader of a major international operation, what is your personal advice for life for our audience of young innovators and business leaders, especially as you are, already here for such a long time in Indonesia?
All right. I believe that the cultural approach in Indonesia is super important. Yeah. Learning the language is super important, especially if you're a young professional from outside of Indonesia. Yeah, I found that to be a great icebreaker when it comes to communicating with customers. The cultural approach is important once again because it's so diverse. Yeah, being humble and being willing to learn, no matter how senior you get, is important. Right? Chasing experience before chasing titles is also key. Because that builds trust in the long run. Indonesia is very much a trust-driven economy, I believe. Yeah. Word of mouth is what gets you recognized, yeah, as opposed to pushing a image by yourself, right? It's better for others to speak about you. And don't shy away from challenges. Yeah. Those are the ones that will build character. Those are the ones that will take you out of your comfort zone and build resilience. Yeah. So being willing to learn, in Indonesia is important. Being willing to take responsibility for mistakes, yeah, and push through is what is going to make you successful here as a young business entrepreneur or someone who is trying to build up your career here in Indonesia.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you for sharing your expertise, Marco, on the Indo-European bridge. So for our audience, someone that has actually, or who has actually the need now, for logistics, for your specific topic, how can people reach out to you and your team?
You can always reach out to me and my team through our website at Rhenus Group. You can reach out to myself as well, right? All of our information will be available through the Indo-European Bridge podcast, and look forward to servicing especially the European companies that are trying to invest within Indonesia. Indonesia remains the largest Southeast Asian economy, so much opportunity, and with the right partners, you can succeed here. And I believe that Rhenus is one of those right partners.
Thank you so much for sharing your expertise once again. So it was a great pleasure having you here today. And thank you so much also to the audience. You will find all the links in the show notes below from Rhenus Logistics and the whole team here in Indonesia. And see you on the next episode.